and welcome to the release of TRIP's new report on West Virginia's transportation system. My name is Rocky Moretti. Moretti is spelled Moretti, and I'm the Director of Policy and Research with TRIP. Today we're going to go ahead and take a look at our latest report, which is based on the latest data from numerous transportation sources. But before I start, once we're done, our format for questions will be that if you can indicate on the raise hand feature or the comment feature that you have a question, that once you've heard all formal comments, then you'll be elevated to a speaker, to a panelist, and then you can ask your question and interact with any of the speakers and just direct your question to the appropriate speaker. After my comments, we're going to hear from Bird White, who is the Secretary of the West Virginia Department of Transportation and Commissioner of the West Virginia Division of Highways. We'll hear from Jimmy Wriston, who's the Deputy Secretary of the West Virginia Department of Transportation and Deputy Commissioner of the West Virginia Division of Highways. We'll hear from Mike Klauser, the Chairman of the West Virginia Business and Industry Council. And then we're going to have a brief taped set of comments from Senator Capito. TRIP as an organization has been in business now 50 years. We're supported by a coalition of manufacturing, insurance, construction, labor, and engineering organizations. They look to us to be advocates for a safe, well-maintained, efficient transportation system, and we do that by providing the latest data on at the state and national level in terms of the transportation system. The report finds that even with a boost in transportation funding that occurred in 2017, which certainly has been very helpful, and I think we'll hear more about that from the state officials. But the bottom line is the state still faces significant challenges, and addressing that is going to take even additional and further boost in transportation funding in West Virginia. We've seen with the pandemic just how vital the state's transportation system is to support its supply chain. We also saw what happened back in April when travel in West Virginia dropped by 40% at the height of the initial lockdowns. But since then, we now see travel as recent as November at 11% below average levels of travel in West Virginia. So we certainly see the state's activity returning to pre-pandemic levels, and we anticipate, of course, seeing that continue as West Virginia and the rest of the nation works through this pandemic. In 2015, a West Virginia Blue Ribbon Commission on Highways found that the state needed to increase its annual investment by $750 million to address preservation and safety challenges, and another $380 million to look at additional projects to address economic development and also traffic congestion. And so that's really the long-term challenge that the state still faces in terms of funding its transportation system. Our new report takes a look at the impact on the public of roads that aren't always in smooth condition, unfortunately, that are at times, particularly in urban areas, congested, and then also sometimes lack adequate roadway safety features. We estimate the cost to the public at $1.6 billion annually. We also broke that down regionally, and I'm going to give data for some of the largest urban areas in West Virginia as I go through this. TRIP estimates that the average cost to motorists in the Charleston area of roads that are deteriorated, congested, or lacking in some desirable roadway safety features is $1,280 annually. The TRIP report also finds that in the Huntington area, the average cost to motorists of roads that are deteriorated, congested, or lacking desirable safety features is $1,273 annually. The report also finds that in the Beckley area, that the average cost to motorists of roads that are oftentimes in rough condition, are congested, and may lack desirable roadway safety features is $1,299 annually. The report also took a look at pavement conditions across the state, and this is data for both locally and state maintained roadways. It's essentially the roadways that people are driving other than maybe the roads right in front of their streets in their neighborhoods. It's the major roads that we all use to get around the state. The trip report finds that 47% of Charleston's area's major roads are in either poor or mediocre condition, with 20% rated in poor condition and 27% rated mediocre. The report finds in the Huntington area that 20% of major roads are in poor condition and 16% are in mediocre condition. The report also finds that in the Beckley area, 19% of major roads are in poor condition and 24% are rated mediocre condition. The report also looked at the condition of bridges in West Virginia, which continues to be a significant challenge in West Virginia. The report finds that 21% of West Virginia's bridges are rated structurally deficient, which is the second highest rate nationally. The report finds that 13% of bridges in the Charleston area are rated structurally deficient and in need of repair. In the Huntington area, the trip report finds that 17% of bridges are rated structurally deficient and in need of repair. The report also finds in the Beckley area that 23% of the region's bridges are rated structurally deficient and in need of repair. We also took a look at traffic congestion and noted in the report that the average cost in West Virginia of lost time and wasted fuel due to traffic congestion, and also the cost to freight movement that is slowed down because of traffic congestion, is approximately $300 million a year. The trip report notes that the traffic fatality rate in West Virginia is the 13th highest nationally. There's a significant challenge in West Virginia to make further strides in terms of improving traffic safety. And certainly part of that is making sure that roadway safety features from adding rumble strips to improved intersection design to making sure lane markings are kept up. All of these can have a significant impact on improving traffic safety. And so the challenge to transportation agencies at the state and local level is, to the extent possible, to improve the safety of the roadways across the state. As the report notes, that on average over the last 5 years, there have been 26 traffic fatalities annually in the Charleston area. The report finds that in the Huntington area, there have been on average 26 traffic fatalities over the last 5 years. And in the Beckley area, the trip report finds that on average, there have been 15 traffic fatalities annually in the Beckley area. So if additional roadway safety improvements are moved forward, we would anticipate seeing those numbers dropping. In conclusion, before we turn it over to our other speakers, we point out in the report that the transportation system is absolutely vital, particularly the highways, to the movement of West Virginia's economy, where each year $125 billion in goods are shipped annually, most of those by trucks. And the latest data anticipates that by 2045, that the value of freight shipped across the state, when adjusted for inflation, is going to increase by approximately 80%. And we also know that the projects to improve our transportation system are absolutely vital to job creation. They support approximately 24,000 jobs annually across the state. And in conclusion, we're seeing significant discussion of additional infrastructure investment coming out of Washington. And as we point out in the report, that the federal program currently provides $465 million annually to West Virginia for their transportation system. But that program expires at the end of September, and it'll be critical that Congress put in place a long-term, adequately funded and reliably funded surface transportation program. We're now going to hear from Secretary Byrd.
Rocky, thank you for the information. I read your report and found it interesting. We're starting from, we have started from a position where we're in the hole, we're behind. We're trying to chase and catch up to the problems that have been here for decades. And we're using a multi-pronged approach where, one, we are through the bond program doing some new construction to alleviate some of the congestion and problems we have there. And we're doing a program to do our patching and keeping our roadways that we have in as good a condition as we can But probably more important is we're trying to get back to where we're doing the preventive stuff, where we're doing things that will show results in over the next 10 years. Get the water off our roads. We're doing trying to concentrate on ditching, on taking care of the shoulders of the road, on patching our potholes before they become real big problems, on canopy cutting and getting the sunlight to our roads to keep them dried out. The basic stuff that I call blocking and tackling. Mr. Riston points out that a lot of football teams, they keep throwing Hail Marys, but they don't win many games. The guys that win games are the guys that do the blocking and tackling right. And a lot of this stuff, it won't be immediately evident to a lot of the public. They don't notice maybe that the ditches are clean and the shoulders are sloped the right way and the sunlight's hitting the road. But we'll see that over the years. We understand that we need to have a better road system to attract industry, to help our businesses thrive and ship. We are in the middle of the eastern seaboard. We need to get our stuff up to date, and we're working on it just as hard as we can work on it. But a lot of it is the stuff that will pay dividends in the years to come. While we're trying to keep up with the problems of today, we're also working on next year and the year after that, and the year after that. I believe you're muted, Rocky.
That's right. Yes. And now we'll hear from the Deputy Secretary, I believe.
Yes, thank you. It's really good to see you today and have an opportunity to talk about the report. We look forward to the submission of this report every year because it tells us exactly where we are. Secretary White is absolutely correct. You know, the overriding message of the report is it outlines the cost of doing nothing. It outlines the cost of underinvesting in our critical infrastructure. For decades, we have underinvested in our roads and bridges, and we're paying that cost. We are paying that cost. Rocky mentioned the $1.6 billion annually. That's a cost. That's real dollars. That's real money that people are spending due to the conditions of our roadways. I would point out that is $200 million more than our total annual budget. So you're paying anyway. We need to put that money into the roads rather than into maintenance and repair and upkeep of your vehicles. The steps that we've taken, the revenues are flat. We all know the revenues are flat. We need a big, bold vision out of Washington, the same way we had a big, bold vision from our governor here in West Virginia. What I would say is the Blue Ribbon Commission that you mentioned, Rocky, clearly told you that we need to double our annual budget. We need to double our annual investment here to get to the roadway system that we need. West Virginia has the 6th largest state-run highway system in the country. We have over 7,000 of those bridges that have that. Nearly a fifth of them are structurally deficient or functionally obsolete. These are critical issues that aren't going to get better over time if we do nothing. And we are doing something. We've done a great deal, as Secretary White described. We've got back to our roots as far as our internal forces. We're concentrating our people inside our own divisions to take care of that blocking and tackling, as Bert says, to take care of the core maintenance activities. Get those things to where you're doing the right thing at the right time. It's very much the way you take care of your automobile. If you change your oil on a regular basis, you're going to get much more life out of that engine. Our highway system is much the same way. We have to work ourselves to overcome those years and decades of underinvestment. We're getting more efficient. We're getting more efficient every day. Our contracting partners are getting more efficient. They're sharpening their pencils. They're trying to get these projects done in timely fashion. They're trying to work as hard as they can, hire the people to get this road work done. All the while, struggling with that underfunded situation. The road bond, or the entire package of Roads to Prosperity that the governor implemented just 3 years ago, has been a very, very good start. $3.83 billion worth of roadway investment in one package. General obligation bond, our turnpike bond, our Garvey bonds. This is exactly the kind of innovation that we need. We need to see that from our leadership in Washington. We need a big, bold infrastructure package if we're going to catch up and get ahead of this crumbling infrastructure and get to a point to where we're doing the right thing at the right time. The canopy cutting, the ditching, all of these things are going to make us more efficient. We're going to gain on it. We're never going to get to where we need to be without the funding levels necessary to do it. And that's exactly the message that this trip report gives us. But thank you.
Those are very, very helpful comments. We're now going to hear from Mike Klauser. He's the chairman of the West Virginia Business and Industry Council. Mike?
Thank you, Rocky. It's a pleasure to be here today. On behalf of the West Virginia Business and Industry Council, we represent most of the large trade associations and many business organizations throughout the state. And for over 40 years, BIC has had as one of its overarching goals and objectives is to have a safe and modern transportation facility in the state of West Virginia. It is crucial to attracting business. It is crucial to having high-paying jobs, not only in the construction industry, but throughout the entire economy of West Virginia. And as Secretary White mentioned, it is crucial for the quality of life for West Virginians. We need a good transportation system to move goods and services, and to and we were talking before we came on the call this morning with I've elevated Secretary White and Deputy Secretary Whiston. The job that the Department of Highways has been doing over the last month, just clearing our roads to make sure that we can travel safely. All of those are crucial to economic development in the state. It's crucial to jobs in the state. And for those reasons, the West Virginia Business and Industry Council is pleased to be here today to participate in this. Our members, manufacturers, coal companies, contractors, the whole gamut of the state's economy depends on being able to move goods and services throughout the state. And West Virginia has been fortunate to have a great infrastructure and a great asset. But as your report clearly stipulates, we still have needs, and we still have many roads that need to be upgraded. Certainly, when you look at the success that the governor and his administration has had, and the legislature has had over the last few years of bringing in economic development, whether it's Procter & Gamble or Clorox or various metal manufacturing plants that are coming to Weirton. You know, the underlying aspect of that is they are here because they have access to a safe, modern transportation system. And as the governor's Blue Ribbon Commission noted, and the secretary and deputy secretary noted today, is that we need $750 million additional just to maintain our current system. We need $1.1 billion if we're going to expand it. The Governor Justice had a bold program in 2017. Legislature agreed with that. The general public agreed with that when they passed the Roads for Prosperity Bond Amendment. But we knew in 2017 that that was a start, but only a start. And if we are to continue to maintain our roads, if we are continuing to maintain our bridges, if we are going to bring in companies to the state of West Virginia, obviously having a safe and modern and efficient transportation system is vital. So with that, I'm very honored to be here representing BIC today on this. And it was also my distinct honor to introduce our next speaker. She is Senator Shelly Capito, who has done a tremendous job representing West Virginia, not only when she was in the West Virginia legislature and the West Virginia the U.S. House of Representatives, but now in the United States Senate. And I think, as most people know, she is now ranking minority member of the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, who will be looking at a federal highway bill that will impact not only West Virginia, but all states nationwide. And Rocky, I believe we have a clip from the senator.
Yes.
Hi, everyone, and I want to thank Mike Klauser for the invitation to speak today. I'm always privileged and I love seeing you all. A few weeks ago, I officially became the top Republican on the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, otherwise known as EPW. As ranking member of the committee, I'm looking forward to getting to work on many of our priorities. Last year, Congress was able to work in a bipartisan way on infrastructure. It's always a bipartisan issue. And I know that Senator Carper, who is the chair, and I will continue that as the top Democrat and Republican on the committee. A bipartisan highway bill is certainly one of our biggest goals. We passed one last year out of committee, 21-0. It's not fairly much unheard of around here, and I'm hopeful that we can achieve that level of bipartisanship again as we work on the new bill this year. There were a lot of good things for everyone in there, including policies to expedite the delivery of projects and to address climate change. In terms of my priorities, Corridor H remains my biggest West Virginia transportation priority. It's number 1 through 10 on my list, completion of that, but I know there's a lot of other really good projects. I've been working on this for what seems like forever, to get the completion of the Appalachian Development Highway System to better connect West Virginia, both within the state and with those outside our state. I'll remain focused on the King Cole Highway and bridge infrastructure projects. Like many rural states, West Virginia struggles with structurally deficient bridges. I don't need to tell you all that. Bridges traditionally have been neglected for flashier highway projects, so I want to ensure adequate funding for our bridges. I'll be sure to keep you updated as we move along in the highway bill process. Your input, which you're not shy to give me, is very valuable, and I appreciate your support. So thanks for all the work that you do to keep West Virginia moving and working.
Well, now we're going to move on to questions. If you want to indicate with a show of hands or the comments, we'll give you a minute or two. Carolyn, are there any questions on there yet?
I don't see any yet, excuse me, but as Rocky noted, if any of the media members have a question, they can submit that either via the chat feature, or you can just use the raise hand function. I'll be able to essentially call on you and elevate you to a panelist in the webinar, so you'll be able to ask your question live, and we'll be able to see you or to hear you and to see you if you've got your camera on as well. So I don't see any questions that have come in yet, but again, we'll give that just one more moment for anyone to either enter their questions in the chat or to raise their hand and indicate that they'd like to ask a question of any of the speakers.
I've got a question that I'll direct to the Secretary and Deputy Secretary. The Transportation Research Board, through the National Academy of Sciences, 2 years ago put out a report on the interstate system, the need to essentially rebuild the interstate system, which they said was just reaching the point where it was going to need significant reconstruction. But what they pointed out was that as the infrastructure ages on the interstate, but I would imagine it's true of all roads and bridges, that routine repairs don't last as long as they once did as the underlying structure continues to deteriorate. And so they talked about reaching a point of diminishing returns. And I'm just wondering if that's consistent with what you see in West Virginia.
It very much is consistent with what we've seen. I can tell you that over the last 2 years, we have undertaken to full depth replacement, full depth reconstruction of over 60 miles of our interstate system here in West Virginia. That's kind of unheard of. I think over the previous 12 years, we had reconstructed only 6 miles of the entire interstate system. So we leveraged our bond money and our bond program that the governor led us to. We on that particular aspect, we used our Garvey bonding capacity, and in 2 years we full depth reconstructed over 60 miles of interstate construction, and we've got to keep doing that because you know, just that 2 inch of that thin overlay is only going to last so long.
Right.
And after a while, you're absolutely right. You get to the point of diminishing returns. The overlay only keeps that cracking from migrating up to the surface for so long. It does nothing for the base failures that are underneath. Many of the roads that we full depth reconstructed were old concrete roads that we rubblized, rebuilt from the ground up. And now you're seeing a much better ride. You're seeing a much better product. You're going to see a product that lasts longer than a traditional overlay or even a rehab strategy.
Thank you. Carolyn, are there any questions?
Yeah, I see a question from Jamie Baker. So Jamie, I've elevated you to a panelist. If you unmute your line, you'll be able to ask your question directly of the speakers. Go right ahead.
Hi guys, Jamie Baker with WTOV up in Wheeling, West Virginia. This is for Bird and Jimmy. I know there has been a ton of work going on specifically up here in Ohio County with the interstate project, the streetscape project that's going to be starting soon. But just a county down in Marshall County, I know they see a lot of struggles specifically with secondary roads, a lot of that due to the oil and gas trucks that travel them. As you mentioned, you guys have been kind of working from behind, but are there any plans in that area to kind of attack some of those secondary roads that are off the beaten path a little bit more?
Absolutely. As you know, Jamie, we one of the big issues we face in the Panhandle up there are slips and slides. We've really focused on those. We're trying to catch up. Just last year, District 6 placed over 1 million pounds of steel in soldier pile walls in the entire district. We have just recently purchased 2 new drills for our own state forces to continue to work toward catching up with those slides. Just 2 years ago, our legislature was generous enough to give us an additional $50 million to apply toward those slides, and we accomplished that in a single year. But there were over 1,700 slides just that we knew of, and more coming every day. They seem to every time it rains, we have a rock slide, we have a rock fall, we have a slip, we have a slide, and we're working very hard. Our contractors we have a program that our contractors take care of, and then we tackle that from both sides. We also have state forces in every district that work solely on slides. That is their dedicated job. Buying those new drills to where we can do some of that drilling ourselves. We just recently upped our contract, put out a new contract for drilling. We had more bidders for that work. I think it's more competitive now. So we actually will be able to do more work with less money, and that's exactly what we're all about, is to get this stuff done efficiently as we can with what we have. That will not alleviate the need for the additional funding, but it's where we are. We have to stretch every dollar as far as we can.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And we have another question from Veronica Ogbe. Veronica, I've also elevated you to a panelist. If you unmute your line, you'll be able to ask your question.
Perfect.
Go right ahead.
So as far as the amount of money that it costs drivers when it comes to their vehicles on these roads, obviously we are in a pandemic and people are struggling financially. Is there any effects, I don't know how much you can talk about this with the study when it was conducted, but is there any effects on motorists when it comes to damages they may encounter from these roads, and how that might have affected them because of the pandemic?
Well, if you look at the costs, starting with road conditions, obviously the worse shape roads are in the short term, you may need additional repairs. You may blow a tire. Over the long term, your vehicle's not going to last as long as it should. And then we also point out that increased safety risks when transportation agencies don't have the resources to do every safety improvement that they would like to be able to put there. And then finally, the delays. Well, what we're seeing obviously is vehicle travel hasn't returned yet to pre-pandemic levels, although we anticipate that. but we've seen trucking actually at higher levels than pre-pandemic levels. And when they're delayed, obviously that impacts delivery times, and that gets to the productivity of businesses, and also it increased cost to the public.
Perfect, thank you.
I don't see any additional questions or hands raised right now. Oh, actually, I do see one other hand that just went up. So A. Hatcher, I'll promote you to a panelist and you'll be able to ask your question live as well once you unmute yourself. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Alicia Hatcher from WBLY. I have a question for the Secretary and Deputy Secretary in regards to the roads, kind of similar to up there in the Panhandle. I know a lot of our viewers questions for second and third dairy roads. They want to know, hey, when is my road going to be fixed? When is the state DOH going to come out to do something to my road, repaving, filling in the potholes, different things like that? Could you talk about that?
Sure. If we have a website, part of the DOT website that they can go to and look at, they can actually drill right straight down on their road and see when we've planned to work on it and what we plan to do. Now that's statewide. It's live on the computer. It's pretty simple to use. I can use it, so it must be pretty simple to use. They can go there and get their information and find out exactly what's going to happen. We ask people if they've got a particular problem and it is not there to let us know, and we'll add that to our list of projects. We're trying not to jump all over the place, patching this and then going halfway across the county and patching something else. We've got a plan that we think is systematic. We'll get more done more efficiently if we follow our plan, but we will add things to it as they come up.
Thank you.
Carolyn, any final questions?
I believe that is all the questions. I don't see any other chat questions or hands raised. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up.
Okay, well, thank you, of course, to our speakers for taking time out of their busy schedules. And thank you to the journalists who have taken an interest and participated today in the webinar. I'm certainly available throughout the day for any journalist who may subsequently have a follow-up question or want to do an individual interview by Zoom or any other platform that you like. So again, thanks everyone for participating, and hope everyone has a safe, productive day. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.